Hey guys. Hey Peter, Mark, Stuart. What's up? Nothing happening here. We'll do an audio check and make sure everything's working. Can everyone hear me? Hey Mark. David Belloni, good morning. Bill, good morning. Next check. Is the camera shaky? Yep, camera shaky. Right, we've got that one. Excellent. All the information we need. I'll stop shaking the camera. Raymond, g'day. What happened this weekend? Not very much. Finish this. Coat of varnish on it. One coat anyway. Pretty happy with this at this point. I think this is pretty nice. Different tonal rating, which makes it, it's kind of made a rod from a back there, because, hey Paul, the tones are quite a bit different on this. We had to put a rainbow in it, so that's where it happened there. The tones are quite a bit different to, say, this one. Which means that getting colours for text that looks good on both of them is a bit tricky. Well, a bit tricky. Nigel. Congratulations, Nigel, on finishing a project. That's very awesome. I really enjoyed that series. Can't wait to get back into the locomotive. William Henry, g'day. So, thoughts on this? There's stuff here everywhere, like you said. Lettering in this colour. Right. Whoa, that's a bit bright. Everyone says a bit bright. If we fade the lettering from that colour to that colour, right, a fade through the middle, not too bold, but those colours, and then we put a bit of a block on it with this, I think that'd look pretty good. That's what I think. Not yet convinced, but I think that's what's going to happen. So if we do the same for this one, I think that'll work for that one as well and look pretty good. All right, that's the thoughts. We've had thought processes about that, and that's what we ended up with. We'll see. But this time next week, any luck and a good downwind and a nice day or two, we should have some text on these and be ready to deliver them. So pretty happy with that. The text pretty basic, and I've got the script and font, typeset, whatever, all sort of worked out for them. And if we can get some text on them and another coat of varnish on, I'd be pretty happy. They look great. So that's what I spent a little bit of time on this weekend. I basically finished this airship, a bit more colour on it. David, that's an airship, anyone can see that. No, this is a commission job for a client. They're antique shop signs. They're antique shop signs. They had to be, right. Criteria was, right, this is all very difficult because you've got to put all this in one panel or two panels. I didn't really feel like painting the same panel twice because they're pretty, painting two of these is going to be hard work. Getting them both looking the same. So we didn't want to do that. So they had to be steampunk, right? And they could have made steampunk writing on them, but steampunk text is very difficult to read from a distance or from a car or anywhere else. It's really not a very nice thing to watch, read. Any steampunk font you've ever seen is a bit sort of over the top. So my thought was to make the background steampunk. They also had to have a rainbow in them, right? Which this one got as a sort of a last minute thing on Monday, right? And this one's got two. Is it rainbow? And they also need to have a green tree frog in them. That was my criteria. And they're supposed to say jolly good antiques and collectibles. So we're going to put like jolly good, like jolly here, and then good here, and then antiques and collectibles. And that's going to do. I'm not sure there's actually a propeller on this. I don't know how that works. Anyway, mine is not the physics. I wasn't here to sort of handle the physics. This one turned out much better than expected. I really like this. I'd hang this on my wall. I kind of like that. This one's not terrible either, but it looks a bit less complicated than this one. But there we go. So I'll put sort of jolly good antiques and collectibles, and up here in the corner, looking over the top of the D on the good, I'm probably going to put a green tree frog looking over fairly like in bright colours just on top there on each one, and that covers the design brief. Hey Chris, that covers the design brief and it's done. So we need to get some text on this. And I'm just going to put it straight down as yellow. Come back and second coat the yellow because that's going to need two coats, and put cream on it and sort of blend the cream from the bottom to the top on the yellow on each letter, and then probably put a block in it. And whether I actually go through and generally I don't know how it's going to look actually, but generally a black outline on it makes it look a bit too cartoony. So I'm not sort of, I don't know, but we'll put a red block on it. I don't think it needs a shadow, that's a bit much. But that's that. And then I'll stick some decent varnish on it for sort of anti-graffiti sort of a hit. And they go in that A-frame behind that one. There's an A-frame there, a good one. And they both slide in there, the aluminium panel, and job will be done. I went and bought a sheet of plywood for this box. That's something else that happened. It's a build this dirigible. Dirigible is definitely gay. It's got a rainbow, as is the windmill. Anyway, went and found some plywood. I'd feel much happier spending $28 on a sheet of premium 4mm plywood, 6mm plywood, or whatever it is, if it never had this bunning sticker on the corner of it that would never come off. That annoys the crap out of me. But anyway, that's my little moan. It's my little moan. Joe's out there talking to himself about something being a failure, so I'm going to ignore that. What else? For the purposes of the new video, you'll get a bit more of a look at this later, but there's a drawing for the whistle. Chris, Old Iron Shops, this is probably a whistle that would have come past your place. Back in the day. And Northern Pacific run into Sacramento, I think so. Anyway. This is the drawing. It's a bit of a mud map. It's not full size there. But I'm sort of been looking at it. This is a 2-inch BSP fitting, which is huge. Look at that. 2-inch 11. I think 2 3/8 by 11, something like that. 2-inch BSP. BSP is a pipe fitting, pipe thread, and nominal bore pipe is measured on the inside rather than the outside. The tube is measured on the outside and pipe is measured on the inside. There's some useful information that no one needed. Anyway, this is about 60mm. It's 2-inch. I need to thread this, which I've been working on a bit. See, I've got the hex cleaned up and a little bit of work on it. It's sort of nearly cleaned up in most places. Need to set this up and machine this end to screw into that. And then I need to bore it to match this. So this goes in there with the valve seat on the bottom. And then machine this end so it fits in there. So this end's got to fit in there, like so. And then when we've done that, we need to machine a groove in this. And put a pinhole in it for the lever. So that's where we're at with that. While I was cleaning up castings, of course not very much else to do. But I'll put this up here. This is the next casting actually. That's the reed plate goes on top. Then we need the shaft that goes through the middle, which is 12 and 310 millimetre long or something with a thread on each end. Holds that in place. But while I was cleaning up castings, I got in and did these, which are quite nice. They still need a bend in them. I'll take them around to a mate's and put them across a couple of bars in the press with one on the back and give them a bit of a bend bump until they're the same shape as the original, which is this one, see? Which isn't particularly pretty bend anyway. This one I think is original. It's very ugly. All the holes are slogged out. It's not going to stay tight on the riveted on. It's probably not going to stay tight on the brass, anything else. So might have to make another one of these because these two replace these, which is, it's only an excuse for a good job. It's not even an excuse. That's a pretty lousy sort of a thing to actually do. Let's grab some lights. Is that better? Yeah, that's better. So this is what was on the actual boiler banding of the roller. These have got a bolt between them. I realise I haven't explained what these actually are. They've got a bit of oil thread with a nut on each end and a band that goes around the boiler. And when you tighten them down, you tighten this nut together and it pulls the band around tight on the cladding and holds it all in place. It's got sort of brass that wide and 1/16 inch thick, something like that. Now, these were on it, on two of them, and they're definitely homemade and they're a little bit ordinary and not anything that I'd be proud to put back on the roller. So we're going to toss them or put them in the scrap bin or something. They look like 40 by 6, something like that, flat. An inch and a half by quarter. They're fairly solid, but for the cost of the bit of flat, you would think it'd be easier just to make a couple of these. So I'm probably going to replace this one and this one with these, bend them to match, and they'll be much nicer. Drill a hole in them and 2 holes for rivets. That'll be pretty good. Give them a clean up and a polish up. And probably going to replace that one too, because that one's ugly. And the other 3, I'm going to leave probably on the brass without even disturbing the rivets. Just give them a clean up because they're quite good. They're half tidy. This one had two button head screws in it and a couple of nuts and some washers and stuff, and that was a bit ugly. Don't like that much. So we'll put it back together with countersunk rivets. Do them properly. The brass has got a few dings and bangs in it. Some of it's pretty good, some of it needs replacing. So we might have to think about that. But this is boiler cladding for the roller we're working on. Not particularly enthusiastically, but we are working on it. So we'll see how that works. But these castings look good. They look 1,000 times better than what we're on it. Which is very good. Very excellent. What else? Don't know. Run out. Don't know if there is any more. There is some mill content, milling machine content in the new video, I think. I sort of started messing around with it, got to there, and then sort of lost steam on Tuesday night. But there we go. If we get a thread on this, get it finished up and get it welded in, then we could start messing around with other bits. See how that goes. Bit of a priority's been getting this finished. And I'm not feeling particularly well, so I'm sort of, the last few weekends I've been not doing quite as much as I should have either, but we're getting there. Anyway. What's everyone else up to? Matt Peterson's coming to Australia apparently in January. Stuart might get a video out. We'll hold him to that. That'd be excellent. I'm probably this next weekend going to go up to the Trades Guild and finish sandblasting some of these bits. And maybe on a day do a heap of a stack of little castings that need doing. Did I sort the sound issues out? I really hope so. I've done a couple of tests and things, and I think I've got the GoPro sound pretty good. We'll see what happens. I think we fixed it. Mark put a video up on machining pins. It's a bit exciting. Be interesting to see all that go back together. Get some real paint on it. Nice bright coat of council yellow would be nice on that. Be very disappointed if it's any other colour. Nigel's having a clean up. You can come and have a clean up here if you want. I've had a bit of a clean up and then it all gets messy again. What else? Oh my gosh, that's a big yawn. Sorry guys. Big yawn. There's 1,000 little bits for the roller that need sort of need casting up. I need 4 of them, something like that. 6 of them, 4 of them. Need 1 of those. Need to cast a bit of bar for these. There's bits for other people's rollers as well that need to be cast up, so probably if I had a bit of a go on gunmetal, we could get a lot of these bits done. This needs to be gunmetal. These probably do too. They're the thumb wheels that hold the motion guards on the roller. So I need to get some of them made up at some point. There's a box full of little bits of castings and things, just little jobs. But they all take time, and to mould up and cast one of them is as difficult as to mould up and cast one of these, really, or one of them. That's how that is. Yeah, they're all sort of good size for lost wax castings. You could do them that way, or lost PLA, or whatever else. You've got to have some sort of an oven to melt the waste out of and all that sort of stuff. Though these will sand cast pretty good. There shouldn't be any problems with that. These you could lost wax cast. But I think I'm just going to make a bit of bar in gunmetal and machine them from solid. Could probably make them. There's probably not a lot of point in it. Yeah, getting them to cast properly so that there's no sand fall out and tear out and stuff is pretty difficult. So I think we'll just make them a better bar. These two, if you were careful with them, you probably could cast them up as they are and machine the outsides and this diameter here and then sand the rest up. But I think they need to be machined out solid too. These I've got patterns for and they're fairly simple casting. I've done them flat so that they're a lot easier to cast, and we'll just put them in the press and bend them around to match the boiler cladding and rivet them on a bit of brass when we get them, and that'll be another job done. Be one step closer to getting some cladding on. Now we got the National Rally. 22nd of August, but next year out west. That's not as long away as you think it is, because we've got Glenray Timber Festival, which is the last weekend in July, which is 3 weeks before. Now, we have every intention of sending the roller up directly after that, like the next day, straight to a storage facility in Gatton or somewhere. Now, that saves quite a lot of work, because well, it doesn't really, but it sort of does, because we don't have to drive the thing home and clean it up and then drive it out again. So it's about 14 k's on the road it saves, and a bit of wear and tear. Not that that's anything really, but it also means we lose 3 weeks. So I'm going to have to probably go up there at some point and polish some brass and stuff before the rally. So I guess last week in July, the roller needs to be ready to go. That's the least of our problems, that pump. That's a fairly easy job. We'll get that sorted and back on. I don't know whether cladding will go on it or not. It's a bit of a job. I would like to, probably if I'm going to do anything, I'm going to spend the money on some canvas, some drop sheets around it, so that keep the warmth in the rally ground and keep some of the dirt out. I'd really like to do that if it's going to go away for 10 days or 3 weeks. That's a better thing. That's something that needs to be done. I'd like to paint the tender. I'd like to get in with a wire wheel and clean all that up and get some grey paint on it and make it look half tidy again. Is it closer? It's not that much closer, to be honest. It's about the same either way. So I'd like to perhaps get something done with the front end. That's the other thing too, is that we really need to pull the front end out and get it cleaned up. And if we're going to do it, we want to do it properly. So I'm probably going to have to do Uber deliveries or something overnight for the next little while to get on top of that. And if I can get some cash to do canvas in the front end, I'd be very, very happy by this time next year if I had those things done. I'm just prattling now. But they're the two things on the roller that I'd really like to get done. Couple of mural jobs between now and sort of February would make that work. But no one's really putting their hand up for that. Probably a couple of trucks would make a big difference to it if we were to paint letter some trucks. But no one's putting their hand up for that either. So we'll see how we go. But I'd very much like to get those two things done. The rest can sort of be where it is. The paint on the tent is not a big job. It's just a matter of spending 3 or 4 days on a wire wheel and some paintbrushes and rollers and things and getting it right. That's doable. Anyway, if anyone wants to give me a weekend on a wire wheel on a 4 and 5-inch grinder, you're very welcome to come and contort yourself around in knots under the back of a roller and do it. Doesn't sound like all that much fun. And what are we cladding the boiler with? We've got, yeah, it's an interesting question, William, very interesting question. Modern restoration tends to get away from, here we go, tends to get away from timber insulation cladding. I don't like it much. One is that it holds moisture, and two is that it rots out, and three is that it catches fire pretty easy if it doesn't hold moisture, and four, it's a lot of really miserable bits that you've got to hold up with one hand while you put the cladding on with the other hand when you're putting it all together. It's not fun. You've got to put ratchet straps or something around it and then slide the cladding in under the ratchet straps, or, you know, whatever it takes. But it's not a fun job to do it that way. So, what people generally do, and what I've seen quite a lot, is a steel frame made out of flat, sort of that size, steel flat, probably a bit thicker, that sort of side width, 40 by 8, something like that, 40 by 6. Rolled round, and then make up a cage with spacer blocks off the boiler so there's an air gap. And in the UK they tend to put like Insulwool or insulated blanket in there, and then that supports the steel cladding and the brass bands, and that makes it very easy if you ever needed to get it off for a boiler inspector, because you just basically unbolt the bands and lift the cladding off, and you can lift half of it off and put it all back together or whatever, and you leave the cage in place. However, in Australia, I don't think there's a lot to be gained by having insulated boiler cladding, except that it rots out boilers, and it holds water, and it holds oil, more importantly oil, and it looks a bit crap. So the theory is that we're just going to leave an air gap and screw the cladding to that. So it's about 1.5 inches, 1.75 inches, 2 inches or something air gap, and the steel frame, and then the cladding on the outside of that, cosmetically anyway, and an air gap which will give you some insulation. and that air gap should be enough so that we don't get burn spots in the paint, and it should be enough to give us a little bit of insulation. And it also makes it, next time the boiler inspector comes and we need to get some cladding off to check seams and things, we can just do it. So that's what's going to happen. So if we put the cladding on, we're going to make a steel frame, roll up some, basically on the roller. Oh my God, haven't got a roller picture. Nothing at all really, I'm just talking here. But basically it's a band around the front, a band around the back, and a band around the centre. And it's sideways pieces under the cylinder cover, a cylinder block on each side. So that the cylinder block and the valves and everything have support around them where the openings are, and then the cladding just goes on. And to be honest, it's probably going to get countersink screws in the cladding tapped in, so that you can just screw one on and screw the other one on, put the cladding bands on, and it all looks proper. But if you ever need to take it apart, all you got to do is slip the bands off, unscrew one panel, and lift it off on the ground, and you've got everything open, ready to go. So that's the theory, William. That's where we're at with that. It's a bit of work. I'm not sure that's going to happen before the National Rally in August. In fact, I'm almost sure it's not, unless someone wants to volunteer some workshop hours to do it, and a set of rolls and stuff. I don't think it's going to happen. It's probably 2 lengths of steel in it and 30 bolts. You know, it's not a big job expense-wise, but there's a fair bit of work in making it up. The cladding will get scraped down and steam cleaned, and probably wire wheeled and a coat of undercoat on it at some point in the very near future. Get rid of the oil and stuff off it. The problem with steamrollers, you can't really see it in this picture, but here in between where the brass was riveted on these, there's all this black mark. Most of it got sanded off this one, but this is all, see? It's tallow and engine oil, gear oil and tallow and steam oil. So all that needs to be cleaned off the cladding, and they need stripping back, and needs a coat of grey paint on it. It needs all putting back together in the right spot, and it needs some white stripes running around it. But I don't believe that that's going to happen before the National Rally, because it doesn't look terrible as it is. And yeah, that's how I am. Got to register the roller too. That's something else that needs to be done on club plates at some point fairly soon. Next month or so that's going to be done. It's going to be done before Christmas. Because we never got a full test on the boiler certificate, we did, but there was some errors on the old certificate, and he's erred on the side of caution, and now we've only got a 180 PSI ticket, which annoys me a bit. Not that that's a bad thing. Everyone says, oh, but it's much safer at 180, and it's, you know, it's much more manageable, etc., etc. 200 is the original pressure. Coming down's easy. Going back up to that's almost impossible. So we've lost that after 20 years. So we need to, when this pumps back on, we need to reset the safety valves down 20 PSI, which I'm a little bit annoyed about. But anyway, hi Chirpy. So that's something that needs to be done. So there will be a Christmas party sort of event before then. It's a bit of a nuisance having a Christmas party event and a working day in the same weekend, because none of them, the working day bit doesn't actually happen. Right? Nothing actually doesn't actually get done. Because everyone gets drunk at 10 o'clock. So unfortunately, well, it's a very good idea. I'm not really relying on that weekend to get much done. That's how that works. Anyway, that's where we're at. That's all the things. Yeah, don't get much work out of anyone working on someone else's roller anyway. No one really wants to go and crawl around under a roller in the ash and the mud just for the fun of it. No one does that. Why do you have the brass pieces? Chirpy says. Tape it in both directions. Good question. Not sure what you mean. These pieces? Is that what you mean? How do you mean tape it in both directions? Probably mean this taper and this taper, do you, Chirp? Is that what you mean? Because they've got to look like this. This one's ugly. Right. Yeah, it is. That's a very good question, Chirp. They're tapered this way, so you lift them out of the sound. They're tapered the other way because they've got to blend off into nothing on the brass piece. So this taper this way. This one we're looking at here is a cosmetic one, right? And the other taper is a functional one. So they were cast that way up. With a gate on the back here, you can see that. Up around there and back in here. Basically, by the time they polish up and I get a bit more out of them, they really want a smooth transition back down onto the brass sheet a little bit. This one's quite a bit thinner than that one. This is the old one. This has been ground so that's parallel on top. And to be honest, this might get ground so that it's parallel too, but we'll bend it in place first and then have a look and see how it looks. We'll put a radius on it and then probably we're just going to grind a bit off the back still. That's what we're at. There's not a lot of work to finish now, but we need one more because this one's ugly. I was thinking of only replacing these, and this one was probably all right, but once I take it off, it's ugly. The other three are quite good. So there isn't a 6. No, there's no reason there's 6. There's one each end of 3 bands. There's a band around the front, which goes all the way around, like a full circle, from the bottom right round to the bottom, and that's got 2 on it. That band's really good. That'll polish up. That'll look fantastic. It's a really nice job. The middle ones hook on the cylinder lugs or in the cylinder hold down bolts. They've got a ring that goes around them and then a bolt on the top. Chirp, you're probably right, that's how they were. But anyway, that's how I've done them and they look good. So the two middle ones, one each side, bolt hooks over the cylinder stud on the front of the cylinder stud, front stud, and they go down each side and they've got a clamp at the bottom, which is two of these. The back ones bolt on the spectacle plate. I think we're going to call it a spectacle plate. I'm not sure what you call it. But they bolt on the front plate of the boiler where the motion work goes through. And they go around the bottom and clamp at the bottom. So it's in 2 bits and one full one. So that's kind of the boiler cladding summed up. That all sounds like it's pretty straightforward and easy to do. It's a fair bit of work in it. If we get a spare fortnight in the new year, maybe we'll get it on. It'd be very nice to put it on. But more of a priority is to get the tender painted. And probably it's my roller. But Fridge wants to, Dan really wants to leave the basket on. There are good reasons not to leave the basket on. For one, it never had a wood basket on it until the 90s when someone restored it. I'm not a huge fan of wood baskets for a start. They're not comfortable to ride in. They get in the way. They're very, very difficult to clamber over. If we took it off, Fowler had accessory seats that folded down that went where the basket goes. And that would be a much better improvement on the roller than the basket. Because yes, the basket holds a bit of wood. But we haven't really reached a point at any point where having that much wood on board is a benefit. It worked all its work in life without a basket. So while the basket's quite neat and tidy and it looks the part, it's very Australian and it's very 90s steam restoration Australia. It was fashionable back then to put one on it, and someone's put one on it. Photos I have of it in 1958, it never had, well, that's the next thing, Chirp, yes, at some point. It never had a basket in the 50s. And also, it had a toolbox or a wooden box, found a wooden toolbox up on the back of the canopy up until it finished work. So you could put a wooden box on it and you could put, which looks really good, sort of a nice swinging door toolbox went on the back, which is very useful for carrying things around. And you could also put fold-out spring seats on each side, which would be very nice, like a road loco or like a Fowler traction engine. And that'd make it a useful thing. We could, at some point, there will be a water cart for it. Now that's it's not a subject we're ready to talk about. There is some yeah, at some point there will be a John Fowler and Co. water cart for it, which is a pretty rare bit of gear. And there will be room on that for a basket on the front. So whether you just put this basket on the front of that and manhandle the wood across, and put seats on it, I don't know. But I would I'd be just as inclined not to put the basket back on it because it's not original. And it never had one till it was restored. And I think that at some point we'll have a trailer or a vehicle to tow behind that we can put wood on. So, oh, that's awesome, Chirp. Can you still hear and can you still move your arms and the trembling stopped and all that stuff? Be interested to hear how that went. So anyway, fridge isn't here, so Stuart, don't think it gets much choice by the time it gets to there. So that's my thought. Dan isn't in the chat, so my thoughts is to ditch the basket and probably not put it back on for the national rally and put a box up behind the seat, which we really badly need. Somewhere to carry lunch and beers and logbooks and things. And put some canvas over it, which would drape much nicer without the basket on it. And probably get some fold back leaf spring style seats to go on the front of it. At least on one side, probably on two sides, because they were an actual thing. Hell of a kick, Chirp says, yeah. Can't wait to see him in action. So, that's where we're at. That's my thoughts on roller restoration for the next 12 months. I haven't sat down and thought about it for a week or so. The logbook should be kept up under the canopy, probably. It means we really need a wooden box for it at some point, because it needs to be kept on them, and probably just a waterproof pouch up under the canopy on the side of the canopy is good enough. Absolutely. For a biro and the logbook, but proper Fowler toolbox on the back of the canopy would be very nice. Anyway, front end. What's involved in the front end if we're going to do it? Basically, it needs to be jacked up. The pin needs to come out and the rollers need to come forward, and the forks need to be dropped out. Then we need to fix the fork pin, which has got some issues. There are some issues in the front fork pin, and we need to tee up someone to actually do that work. It's a fairly heavy bit of work. It's not a heavy machining job or anything else, and the parts to go in it. It's just that the actual fork is heavy. Probably if we take the pin out, we're going to discover that the bushes are all worn. So we're going to have to cast some bronze bushes up like this, only about twice as big, and machine them and put in it. And probably a new pin. While we've got it apart, it would be very nice to put an inch of vulcanized rubber on the front of the front rolls. 1.25 inches, 30 mil, something like that. Which means that when you put it back together, that you've got to move the scraper bars and things. That's not a big deal. But there's a couple of months work in that, and if we needed to get it done, we'd want to get into it pretty well straight after Christmas. And get in and get that done. And if all that was done, it needs a coat of paint, it needs putting back together, and that would sort of effectively fix the restoration job back past the cylinder block. It'd be really nice. Oh, that's awesome shirt. How about aluminium bronze? It's a bit hard to machine, but leaded bronze of some sort, yes, absolutely. I would say that they're just ordinary yellow gunmetal, but if we do all that, then really it needs all the oil tubes and everything cleaned out, and if we paint them, then they need some stripes on them and stuff. So that's a bit of a job. So I'm not sure if it's going to get done, but it's got to get done sometime. So we'll get in and we'll have a look. If I can get some canopy curtains around it sooner rather than later, and some paint off the tender and a coat of undercoat on it, we could probably start thinking about the front end in June or January or February, with the hope of getting it done before August or July. So as you can see, my year is pretty well taken care of without any supplementary projects like this or any other major breakdowns. But we'll see how we go with that. Expect to see a lot of roller repairs this year. Aluminium bronze is probably all right. I have to have a think about it. It's only greased, and it's pretty much, there's no seals on it, so they're sort of running in the dirt. I'm not sure. Stuart, thanks. Everyone else has tried. Paul, thanks. So that's where we're at. That's how that is. That's my year taken care of pretty conclusively. Next little while. If you're wondering what I'm going to do for the next 12 months, we've pretty well covered that. Going to get the roller ready for a big rally. Anyone who wants to come and help jack the front of a roller up and drop the forks out of it and load the forks in the van and bring them up to Queensland to fix them, and then put it all back together, you're very welcome to come and give us a hand. There's going to be a lot of bashing if we've got to take those bushes out, I think. Mark did a video of what's involved in taking them apart. Come and look at Mark's while he's got it apart. I might do that. You might see me on Sunday, Mark. We'll see how I go with that. I'm sort of, there's nothing else to do, but if it's raining, you might see me on Sunday. I'll be in touch. yeah, that's where we're at. No news on the maker's plate for the. Yeah, I want to see that out there, Chirp. Absolutely. The maker's plate, behind this sign here, you can just see the corner of it sticking out, is the Lilith plate that goes on one side of the motion covers. It'd be very nice to have this on before the National Rally. I don't think that's going to happen. The motion covers are a whole project on their own. They're not complicated, but if you get someone to laser cut and bend all the metal, it gets a bit expensive. So you've got to do them yourself a bit. The Lilith plate goes on one side, and there's another one that says the Austral Engineering Supply Company in Sydney. Can I show the plate again? A little alcohol burner. No, it's not. It was a fuel tank for a Stewart 400 engine that didn't work. It was just a prototype that didn't quite work. So there's another plate, and I've done the drawing and could probably pull the trigger on getting a casting made, and I might have to, but there is one in Lismore in a scrapyard, a genuine plate, and I've been trying very hard to get that out of the guy, but it's not forthcoming, and I don't think it's going to happen, so I might have to make one up. But that's something that'll happen in the next 12 months. Take care, Paul. Thanks for that. Good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. So it's a big plate, and it really needs somewhere to put it if we get it cast, but we'll see how we go with that. Anyway, that's where we're at. I'm going to get these finished this weekend. If I can get a coat of varnish on this one, because it's still sticky, I can get a coat of varnish on this. It's not too bad, actually. In the centre, it's starting to tack off. This side here is a little bit wet. I don't think this grey strip was properly dry before I put the other on, which makes it a little bit slower to dry around the edges. If I can get get another coat of varnish on this before Sunday, then Sunday I might go and see Mark. We might do a video in Mark's shed, something like that, if he's amicable. See how we go with that. I might get to the foundry on Tuesday, I don't know. And then Monday I better put some lettering on this and this one, and another coat of varnish on it. And Tuesday I'd like to get, maybe even get that thread on that whistle part. I don't know, we'll see. Or some parts done for this. If I could get these cast, then we could probably machine them. Don't know, see how we go. But it's got to be all go. I can't afford to sit around and do nothing for very many weekends this year, I don't think. There's a stack of nuts to be made for this too at some point. Yeah. So they're all a bit different. There's four bolts and nuts to go through here. There's 3 bolts and nuts and a stud in the, I think the inside side's got a stud on it, on the back here, which is that stud, and a nut. And there's 2 nuts on here for studs, I think. There is a box of bolts here somewhere we could have a look at, but I'm not sure where. I'm sure they were here. I'm not sure what I did with them. They're not behind there. No idea. But I'm sure they're here somewhere. There they are. Got them. Another job we've got to do before the road run, or before... Take care, Bill. Good to see you. Another job we've got to do is organise some lighting for the roller. So front lights and side lights, or front lights and tail light, and in some electrical stuff. We've got that underway. It's just a matter of putting it all together. So that's a job for a rainy day. This is what I've got, right? Some of these are the right size, some of them aren't. All a bit ugly, to be honest. This is sort of the right size bolt. This is heritage size bolt, but it's only got a standard nut on the end. So really we need to make nuts to match that, probably. Chip, no, it'll be rechargeables, I think, is the easiest way out of that. Running a roller is pretty full on without extra complications, so probably what I'm going to do is just do rechargeables. I've got LED cobs. If you hadn't seen that chirp, good question. No idea where I'll put them. Know where the box of them are, but I've sort of put them aside somewhere else. There they are. They're in that box there. Stuff's sort of organised. Yeah, I've got cob lights and wires and rechargeable batteries to go in the original housings. Just easy. These are all modern bolts, and whether I clean them up and put them back in with sort of nuts that half match. See, this is a UNF nut, right? Or it's a different size altogether, so that's a standard one. This one's smaller, don't know why. Right. This one's bigger, which is BS 109 standard, the pre-war Whitworth. That's what it should have, I believe, all round. So there's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 nuts. Where'd all they go? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So, yeah. That's where they all go. So there's 4 on that end, 4 on that end, 4 on the base flange, and 2 on there. So it's 14 nuts. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 nuts. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 10 bolts, something like that, because I think there's 2 in the back there are studs, and that one is. So there's 11 bolts. So we really need to get in and do some of these. Put a weekend into this and get them done. Yeah, I don't know if they were forged. They might have been. I would imagine that that's an original bolt. They might be forged. They probably were, but that's not a bad looking bolt. But I think they were probably forged with into a die, or into a mould, or a hardy or something. That one's all right. The rest of them are junk. That's where we're at with that. I'm trying to go back to this. If anyone in Queensland or New South Wales or Brisbane or Tasmania or wherever has got a box of bolts with heads on them that look like this, as opposed to modern Whitworth bolts that look like this, I'll come and get them, seriously. Let me know where you are, I'll travel down and get them. Don't care where you are. But see, this is an abomination, this one, because that's different size altogether. It's not even close. I've got no idea what size that head is, or whether it's on there for a special reason, or what the story is. Maybe there is a reason for it. But it should have those, because there's clearance there, see? Now, there's no clearance in this one, right? So this must have smaller bolts. And I don't think there's enough clearance in this one. There's definitely clearance in these. So, need to think that through. This has got clearance. Need to work out what it needs and what it actually had and what it never had. Get it all sorted. So that's just a matter of making a list. Sitting down and working out where they all go, and get to clean bench space again here, and probably sitting down one night and working out what we need to do, and make a list of what we actually need. These are flat chirp. I've got a length of steel there and easily make bolts and nuts. It's not a big deal, it's just time. Anyway, we've waffled on for an hour and 25 minutes, or an hour and 15 minutes or something. Don't know if we've covered much. It's just basically what I'm going to do. If I get time, or if I live long enough, or if the river don't rise, or if the second common doesn't happen, or if the UFOs don't get us, or if we stay solvent enough to make it all happen. It's been a pretty boring sort of a live stream, but thanks so much for listening in and being a sounding board. I really appreciate that. We'll make it all work, but yeah, as for actually getting real projects going, that's a bit more complicated, and get things actually made. There's a 1/2 inch Whitworth button die. or die nut, not a button die. So I could run that over all these threads and give them a clean up with the spanner as well. But I think button dies are still made to BS109. I believe they may not. No, that's bigger than that. Don't know what they're made to. Anyway, I'm sure it's probably not even a Whitworth size. Anyway, thanks guys. Take care. Be kind to each other. Thanks for the likes and the subscription and all that stuff. We've actually got more likes than people watching. And keep you posted on this. Keep you posted on all this stuff that's sitting here that needs to be done. And some pictures of the roller progress as we go too, I hope. But anyone who wants to come and give me a hand, or make some bolts or find some bolts or make some canvas up or whatever, you're very welcome to. But that probably won't happen. There will be a Christmas party at Dan's. I don't know when. It'll be probably second week of December, something like that. We'll see. Got things to do with the van before I make the trip. So all going well. Get these signs finished. Get some other cash coming in and we might do them. Anyway, I'm out and more soon. Appreciate your watching. Thanks for putting up with me.